Solidarity, comrades. This is something I want to pick up again, having, just random streams that are a bit longer, not really like my planned out brief streams on a certain topic, but just, broad topics where anyone can come in and chill and watch. Or if it's a cool enough person, then we can even invite them on the stream. But I want this to be, a more relaxed, a little less formal. A lot more questions can be asked, and I can talk with a lot more people. So I'm not sure if many people will come on live because of the time and the randomness, really. But I'm going to give it a shot anyway and relax. So as we wait for people to come on, I'm just going to talk about some current events that I haven't really been able to include on my more focused streams. We can talk about Afghanistan. We can talk about Hurricane Ida. And we can talk about several other things that have come up in the international news. First, I want to talk about something that has, I feel like, been sort of ignored recently, but not by the Communist Party of Venezuela, who's been very vocal about it. And what it is that recently there's been reconciliation between the U.S.-backed opposition in Venezuela and the government of the Popular Socialist Unity Party and of Nicolas Maduro. And even before this, we saw at the previous legislative elections that the Communist Party and other smaller groups, some Tumpamaros, some, groups that are supportive of the Bolivarian Revolution and the anti-imperialism, but have created an alternative revolutionary pole. And the Communist Party of Venezuela is really centered around this. And their criticism has been that, we have defended ourselves from these attempted coups and wrecking from the West, and now we have our opportunity to really do some radical change that we haven't been able to do before, which includes, moving away from the social democratic policies of the government and towards more socialist policies, because over 80% of the Venezuelan economy is still in private hands, and it's very much a social democratic economic system going on there, with a lot of economic nationalism and a lot of anti-imperialism. And the communists have been worried, though, that is this going to be the status quo, or are we going to progress the Bolivarian experience forward? And unfortunately, it seems that there's been a sort of an open antagonism between the ruling party and Venezuelan communists. And while the communists still vehemently defend Venezuela against any imperialist domination, they seem to be very worried about what's happening. And the recent events in Mexico City, which saw the reconciliation of the government and the U.S.-backed opposition parties, who are now going to participate in the upcoming elections. You see, the Communist Party is very worried about this, and many revolutionary Chavistas and other revolutionary figures that arose out of the Bolivarian experience, like the Tumpamaros, and even those within the Grand Patriotic Pole, which is the ruling National United Front of of the Venezuelan government, which the Communist Party used to be a part of. But unfortunately, they left that in the recent elections, and now with the reconciliation between the opposition and the government, they're voicing some concerns, and I think these concerns are valid, and I think we should really listen to them. There's this one comrade I'm hoping. I don't know him very well, but he's a friend of a friend, and I'm hoping I can have him on here. He's a patriotic socialist, a Marxist-Leninist, a communist from Venezuela. He's known as One Venezuelan Patriot. I would love to have him on to sort of speak about this situation that's really been happening over there. And the second thing I want to talk about is Hurricane Ida. My prayers go out to everyone who has lost, their homes and their livelihoods and the destruction of their lives from this hurricane. And while hurricanes are, a natural phenomenon, the aftermath of them is something that can be truly changed by the society that they happen in. We saw what happened during Katrina, saw what happened in Houston in 2014, I think, or 2016, actually. Whenever Hurricane Rita came right after Katrina, many people were displaced and they never went back to New Orleans. Many of them stayed in places like Houston. And this has led to New Orleans and the surrounding areas being gentrified to the extreme in the post-Katrina world, where the people who built the city, the black people, the working class people, they've all been pushed out in this post-Katrina world. But now Hurricane Ida comes, and it's going to do it again. The government isn't going to help these people. Yeah, liberals are in office instead of Republicans this time, but the system of austerity and lack of social help we have in this country is extreme. And the only way these people are going to get any relief is from the good graces of people who have more than them. And it's very unfortunate. And now these hurricanes are like accelerators to gentrification in places like New Orleans. And it's going to be really sad to see another exodus of the poor people, the working class people, the people who mean something, who created the culture, beautiful culture of that city and of that state, and all the other people who got hit down there on the coast. I just want to sort of compare, because I've been through a hurricane, though they're called typhoons in China. I used to live on the southern coast in a place called Zhuhai, and we got hit by a typhoon. It was Typhoon Nida. I remember, because usually Zhuhai gets, the back end of storms like that, but this time it got hit hard, and my entire community was underwater. Every single tree was knocked over. Every single tree. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And it was like seeing, like a bomb went off. And it was across the entire city, not just, in one isolated place. But what had happened is that the government and the companies mobilized every single employee and worker and went out, stopped their working on whatever the fuck they did. my ex, for example, was in urban development planning, an office job, and they just dropped everything. And for the next few weeks, they just helped clean up and fix things. And it was an entire community thing. Our school that I worked for, we dropped everything and we went out and we helped. And the government came in and uh, gave stipends to the people whose homes had been destructed and had to move. They were able to pay for it. Just medical care. The military came in and helped us. The police are helpful out there, and just seeing a stark difference of a society that thinks very collectively and thinks very people based. They dropped all business and working and everything just to help people. You know, at the cost of trillions of renminbi. But that's not what motivates China. That's not what motivates their production. Is not the money, it's the people. And so that's why they mobilize their workforce to do that instead of continuing to, produce. And you won't see that in, Louisiana and the places that got hit by Ida in America. You'll see people lose their jobs because they lost their car and they can't get to work. You'll see people lose their homes because they can't pay for repairs and they didn't have the proper insurance. You'll see all these people be pushed out and displaced out of their homes, which many of them have lived in for generations since their families had been brought to this country or had come here. And it's just if you want to see really the difference between a society that's governed by profit and destruction and and individualism compared to one that is of collective uplifting of the people, you can truly see you know what a nation is made of when disaster hits. And, well, while there's plenty of amazing working class people, our governing bodies and the people of power don't deem them worth saving. Um, it's just sick. It's anti-human, and we can see that, you know, coming out of disasters in this country again and again and again. Hurricanes or not hurricane, but tornadoes in the Midwest, hurricanes hitting the Gulf. These are things that whenever they happen, you can see the entire populations of these places of working class people abandoned and displaced and pushed out because of it. And it's sick and sad. But what I do want to talk about next is obviously there's a new country. Well, not a new country, but an entirely new state in existence. The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Um, Earlier, midway through August, they had taken the country and pushed out the Americans finally, and overthrew the American-backed government. I'm very worried. I I'm not too confident in the Taliban's abilities, given where they came from, and what they did before, and how they were funded by the United States to destroy socialism. Um, but now that Afghanistan is free of the American soldiers and the foreign soldiers, maybe hopefully that gives room for the progressive forces uh, of the country to finally unite and be able to advocate for their people. Because when it comes to the US empire compared to the Taliban, we know which is more nefarious. What I'm most concerned of is that the Taliban create a relationship with the West, a positive one with the West. Um, if their objective was simply to become the ruling class of Afghanistan at the behest of foreign capital, then we know what will happen. But if they truly are national liberation fighters, which I doubt, then perhaps we can see a future that is brighter. What I know is that it's all up in the air, and there's no possible way we could know what will happen. It's really, mm, it's frustrating, right? It's hard to explain. Um, am I able to change the name of the stream? Okay, I was just changing the name of it because um, I would like if anyone pops in to want to um join if they wanted to come on and have a discussion. Oh, geez. And this entire business of trying to make sense of Afghanistan is is really difficult. Because right now, it's like, what evil do you prefer? And I don't think the Taliban are inherently evil, but what can you do really? If you're an Afghan, think about if you're an Afghan peasant or one of the few lucky workers in the cities. Think about what do you want from your government? You certainly don't want that horrific, corrupt mess of looters who just looted the country and put them through perpetual war for 20 or well hell since the 90s. They don't want anything to do with these people like the Northern Alliance and the tribal leaders and stuff that base their actions off ethnic um, and tribal affiliation rather than class or justice or nation. So it's hard now because like it's not like we can just go look at the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan and be like they can take power again because it doesn't exist anymore. Those institutions of socialist power were completely wiped out by the Taliban. They reversed everything in the 90s that socialism had won in Afghanistan. And no doubt, especially around the Khalik faction of socialist Afghanistan, that there were many mistakes made. But that was one of the few times in the history of Afghanistan where they were sovereign and free. Yo, what happened to Bay Area 415? I don't know. What do you mean? Did he disappear? Did he? Hey, what's up, comrade dude? So um, if anyone that's chill wants to come on and talk, um, Here's the link. But I don't know what's going on with Bay Area 415. And really, I hope no one's hurt or in jail. Supposedly, he got death threats. Oh my gosh. Supposedly, he got death threats and took his channel down temporarily, but that's all I know. His channel and his Reddit is gone. Whoa. Let me think. The only people I can imagine sending him death threats are Maoists and Gonzaloites. That's okay, comrade, dude. It's good to see you, FVK. FVK is a member of the Crimson Flag podcast with Denki Kang. That's a really cool podcast. They recently put out another episode on the Moscow trials. Y'all should totally check that out. It's really good. You gotta love the Crimson Flag podcast. I actually joined them one time on a discussion about Romania. So it's certainly a cool place, and they have a lot of interesting guests and cool topics and stuff. So go check out the Crimson Flag podcast. But that's okay, comrade, dude. StreamYard is what it is. But about Bay Area 415, like, I get it. I get death threats constantly. I get death threats. Do I support China full stop? I support China. Yeah, I mean, I support them. Yes. Absolutely I support China. I had the fortune I had the good fortune of being able to live in China and experience their society and learn their language and understand their writings and theories and learn from the people who live there themselves, and including people from autonomous regions and stuff. It's really truly a beautiful place and a beautiful culture, many beautiful people, and I would suggest nothing more once the COVID restrictions lift for people to definitely try to make their way and visit places like China and Vietnam and Cuba, DPRK, Laos. Try to go to these places and learn from these people. Ask them themselves. There are billions of people out there who've determined a new way of building a society, and maybe you should ask them what that's all about. And you could learn a lot, because I know I did. Yeah, I mean, China has done a lot of good in this world. Clearing out debts to the IMF in Western countries for other places. Putting building infrastructure all over the world. Without any hitch, without any catch, without any requirements. They're building it for them and trying to develop relationships with other countries that aren't parasitic but are on a mutual basis, which is very interesting to see. You can really read about their intentions and their methodology and their reasoning for it, their Marxist justification for what they do. If you look into what they call in Chinese, there's two different terms: the new global strategy and the new global order in Chinese. And these are you can read about it quite a bit in the volumes of Xi's The Governance of China. But other Marxists and party members and theorists go into it deeper, though I don't know if much of that is in English. I do know that when you look at the new global strategy, it really makes sense what they're doing across the world, and you can really make sense of everything and their justification for it. Oh, you're from El Salvador. Mm. I had a great friend from El Salvador for many years. I think he went back finally. He was an illegal immigrant here, and he worked at the same place I did doing maintenance at, and I became good friends with him. And he taught me some El Salvadorian slang like "Que onda, chavelo?" "Que onda, chavelo?" He was a hoot. Absolutely, Romero, and good to see you. Xi Jinping is one of the strongest and most capable revolutionary leaders I have met in my life. Fidel Castro. I think Fidel Castro's word means something. Long live the Salvadorian comrades in the FMLN, and that's the Faburio Matri Liberation Front, Liberation, National Liberation, the Front. I can't remember. I'm not good with the acronyms in Spanish, honestly. Salvadorian American, born in the U.S. U.S. East Coast, but my heart and soul is in Truco. Uh, Tru, Trucho, Trucho. I don't know where Trucho is, but I need to learn more about El Salvador. Um, I know that they have a deep history of revolutionaries, just like Nicaragua does. So I really want to, um, I really want to do that. Yeah, long live the Salvadorian comrades in the FMLN. I hope to see that they come back to power someday, much like the Sandinistas did in Nicaragua. I really hope to see that. Um, I know that I know that um, my El Salvadorian friend, he's older. He's in his 50s, and he was conscripted in the 80s to to the National Army of of El Salvador to fight against the comunistas, they would call them. And he was forced by one of the generals to do sexual shit the entire time he was in. And then, one day he came over here because the mafia in El Salvador literally threatens his family's life. And if he didn't send money back, then they would literally kill his whole family. Oh, wow. Maybe the communists were a good idea. It's crazy. Ah, yes, I do know Farabundo Marti. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but yeah, I do know about him. I know about I know cursory things about um the FMLN, but I not nearly as much as I know about the Sandinistas. And that's just because we have great people like Ramiro who put out um amazing documentaries and information, and actually go and talk to the people who are building that stuff down there. And that's the thing that makes the West so angry, and ultras too. The fact that people have found a way to build a society that doesn't follow their preconceived notions of what's better, whether that's socialism or capitalism. We love Ramiro up in here. Ramiro does good work. Um, we have to recognize our revolutionaries that truly do the work with the global south, that truly do the anti-imperialist solidarity, that truly spread the message of those who are at the front lines of building a new world. These are the people we need to get in tune with, because if we truly want to be of the people, our politics to be of the masses, then we have to learn Yeah, Dylan H. Gonzaloites are extremely ultra leftists, left adventurist, I would like to say. They isolate themselves from any other communists. They violently attack the people they're meant to be fighting for, and they don't succeed in anything they do. Name one successful Gonzaloite revolution. Don't hold your breath. Um, if you want to follow an ideological principle or a method or revolutionary method, I suggest looking into those that have been vindicated by their success, that have been vindicated by history. I don't recommend those that always fail. Those that are extremely unpopular, right? Why do billions follow Marxism, Leninism, but probably less than 200,000 follow Maoism? Why is that? We really have to ask ourselves that. I think correct ideas are vindicated by their success. Little tidbit, my profile picture banner is of an FMLN gorilla banner, one used by Comrade Marcial, the Ho Chi Minh of Latin America. Wow, I'll have to read about Commander Marcial. Facts. The MRTA, which is the Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement, which is no longer in existence, but they were a lot more like FARC, a lot more Guevarist, a lot more Marxist-Leninist, aligned with, Cuba. No, I mean, you don't need to be sorry to Gonzaloists. Gonzaloists are counter-revolutionaries. They're anti-communists. So you don't have to worry about that. I mean, I would be better if, the stuff I dedicated my life to always failed and it was doomed to fail due to being incorrect. I'd be pretty pissed too. But honestly, that's why no one takes you seriously outside of your little groups. That's why no one talks about you outside of the internet, right? Do you think any of the communists from the third world outside of Peru know what a fucking Gonzaloist is? No, they don't know and they don't care. Yeah, for sure. Kayla Pop is Peruvian, and it's always down to hear two based communists talk about that kind of stuff. A few weeks ago, I met someone online who called themselves a Maoist leftcom. It just sounded like they didn't want Mao said into consideration. It sounds like that they just don't want to do anything, and to do that, they have put themselves into this ideological pigeonhole to where they have confirmed now I don't have to actually do anything because everyone's a revisionist and I'm right. And if you're in that position, then you'll never have to actually take action. You can just keep talking bullshit. That's the thing, It's really easy to say that your ideas are correct when they've never been tested in material reality, like Trotskyites, Maoists, Gonzaloites, leftcoms, whatever. There are very few left-wing ideologies that can say with certainty that their ideas have existed in material reality, and even less that can say that their ideas have lasted the test of time. And you like even anarchists have have the history. They have the actually existing anarchism that died, unfortunately, due to glaring flaws that most of the real ones recognize. People like the obnoxious anarchists recognize that. And it's like, it's like even the anarchists have a ground to stand on because their shit has manifested in material reality. But a lot of these like micro, small left-wing groups, they're just a whole bunch of people whose ideas have never been tested by material reality, whose ideas of socialism haven't, and their revolutionary ideas have been tested and have failed again and again and again and again. So we can see that, obviously, they're doing something wrong because they're not winning, they're not succeeding. Mao's teachings are important, but certain Maoists see communist literature in some light of history. Yeah. Mao's writings are important, especially when you separate it from things written in the name of Mao and things that were actually written by Mao. I can guarantee you from about the early 60s on, most of the stuff signed and said to be written by Mao was not written by Mao. It was written by his wife or Lin Biao. You can tell even if it's translated into English, but you can really tell in Chinese that it's not the same man writing these things. Mao writes in a really flowery, poetic way, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that like can appeal to anyone. And then all of a sudden when then you start getting this bullshit, especially from his wife, who was a part of the Gang of Four. She like writing this fucking highfalutin intelligentsia bullshit. And then you realize that the Gang of Four, they were just writers' critics. They weren't proletarians or anything. They're from well-off background. They're writer critics. Children of the bourgeois. But yeah, a lot of these Maoists take a lot of Mao's writings and writings written in the name of Mao and take it as dogma. They see periods of time in history and socialism as like it has to have these essential qualities of these periods in time for it to be socialism, and that's not how any of this works. It's not how dialectics work. It's not how communists think. It's not Marxist. It's anti-communist. And so they're to the point to where they're so invested in this puristic form that they have that it's anti-communist because it combats people who are actually succeeding and actually facing the tests of material reality. But exactly. Maoists corrupt Mao the way Wahhabists corrupt Muhammad, the way Zionists corrupt Judaism. It's exactly right. Exactly right. Because Mao has a lot of good shit to say. And his contributions to dialectics with his works on practice and on contradiction cannot be thrown away. They are so essential to the dialectic method, especially here in the 21st century. But unfortunately, like, this Sino-Soviet split gets a lot of MLs scared to even look at Mao, and a lot of Maoists just sitting there perpetuating that myth about, a lot of the things that Mao had to say. Combat dogmatism, absolutely. Could not agree more. Dogmatism is not for it's not for communists. And a lot of them, what's sad is that they exist under the guise of scientific socialism. They use a lot of Marxist language, a lot of scientific socialist terms, but they're like using them out of date. It's kind of like scientists in the 1800s. While they did develop a lot of new ideas, and we still use a lot of those ideas today, we don't speak like them anymore, and we don't use the exact same terminology and methods that they use because a lot of those are wrong. But that's like what they're doing. They're like walking around like the 1800s doctors are. Oh, you're ignoring what the original doctors said. You're a revisionist of medicine. That's the kind of idiocy it is. If it's truly a science, then it isn't fixed in stone. It's a very fluid thing, especially as our understanding of Marxist. Well, yeah, because Gonzaloids don't think socialism ever existed except for a brief time in the history of the USSR and and China for a very brief time, like a decade. And so like they have this very small sample size, and if it doesn't meet these, empiricist essential qualities, then it's not socialism. And it just completely throws out the method and everything like that. it, it, none of them, no Gonzaloids, no Maoists have any ground to stand on to criticize any socialism because they've never built it. They've never done it. They don't know. As Mao said, where do correct ideas come from? Do they drop from the skies? No. Are they innate in the mind? No. They come from social practice and from it alone. And they do not have the social practice at constructing socialism. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's just abstractions in their mind. That's all it is. And that's the difference between an ultra and a communist and a real communist, is that one actually succeeds and moves history forward, and one complains that no one is doing it. That's the difference. And while these little ultras will be left in the dustbin of history, the same way that we talk about, the same way we talk about the left communists of old, like Bordiga, you know, the same way we talk about these utopian socialists like Owen and Charterism. These will be left in the dustbin of history. Yeah, I mean, I used to be a Maoist between 2009 and 2013. I was a Maoist, and in 2010 I moved to the Austin area, and they weren't the Red Guards Austin then. It was a bunch of separate cadre of Maoists, and I was involved with that group around the Occupy Wall Street time. And, it was a lot of bullshit. It was a lot of bullshit. I've never understood the Gonzalez argument against Cuba. I've asked continually what makes them not socialists and never get a straight answer. Right. um, because, they don't understand socialism through a Marxist lens. They understand it through the lens of dogma. And that's the problem. And that's why they're not taken seriously worldwide. And that's why they've never succeeded. And that's why they're a joke. They're like the caricatures that anti-communists think of us as, right? Like they're living up to all the caricatures and stereotypes that anti-communists say about us. And that's what they want to do. And it's embarrassing. Like, I don't like to be associated with those kinds of people. It's embarrassing. Like, when it's like they're literally a cartoon villain communist from an anti-communist nightmare. Yeah, I've heard a lot of bullshit from MLMs. MLMs don't know what they're talking about. Honestly, it's just exhausting. And the ones that actually exist in the global south are putting their people through perpetual war. People that don't want to be in it, peasants like in India and the Philippines. These people don't want to be in conflict. And in Turkey, all they're doing is helping the Western backed PKK get more and more Kurdish people fucking killed that want nothing to do with their fucking crazy bullshit. I empathize with their struggle, but my goodness. The protracted People's War lasted between 1938 and either 1938 or 1937 and 1940 and 1950. It didn't last 75 fucking years. It didn't put people into perpetual war. This is left adventurism. This is why people, the normal working class masses, don't like communists in those countries. It's simple as that. Because they're out there putting people into perpetual war. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dylan. Yeah, that's exactly what Mao is. Mao was a Marxist-Leninist who contributed to Marxism-Leninism, and Mao Zedong thought is like an organic expression of China, of the Chinese experience under Marxism-Leninism during the time of Mao, right? And that's the way you have to think about it. You know, Mao was an ML. Mao called himself an ML. During the time when Maoists started calling themselves Maoists, they didn't acknowledge that bullshit. Yeah, just call yourself an ML. Trust me. You'll find yourself around a lot more serious communists. You'll learn a lot more. You'll get more done. You'll meet real communists from the third world who really trying to make the world a better place. Right. And I think so Mao did talk about the universality of protracted struggle, right? He didn't talk about the universality of protracted people's war. He talked about the universality of protracted struggle, which he made very clear that the struggle can go through long periods of legal and non-legal struggle. The struggle, class war, class struggle. That's what he was talking about, not the military strategy. But they would know that if they read Mao. They would know that if they actually, read more than just on guerrilla warfare and read all of Mao. If they actually read Mao and looked at what he said, they would know that he didn't say that the protracted People's War is some kind of universal thing. And I think a lot of that comes from mistranslations. But nowadays, you can't really get mistranslations anymore. Like the translations are perfect. I can read Chinese, right? What Mao says is that the protracted struggle is universal, and it goes through periods of legal and illegal struggle. The same kind of shit Lenin said, the same kind of shit Marx said, the same kind of shit Engels said. It wasn't some new idea. He just said it in the way that Mao said it, in his flowery, poetic way. And y'all won't ever take the effort to learn how to, read his language. You definitely won't listen to people who actually can. That's the thing that's exhausting. Like when I tell these people what you're saying about Mao is objectively not true, I've read the primary sources in the native language. They don't want to listen. They would rather listen to the blog written about a newspaper article written 30 years ago by some Dutch guy in a tiny little Mao Zedong thought party in Rotterdam. That's what they would rather listen to than the primary source. They're ridiculous. I argued with a Maoist last week who said if commodity productions exist... Yeah, exactly. Like commodity production has always existed under every form of socialism. If that was true, then according to him, no socialism never existed, even in what he considers quote unquote Maoist China. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing. Of course, commodity production exists under socialism. Yeah, it's different than capitalist commodity production, but y'all would know that if you actually studied Marx. Like, this is Marx, right? This is basic fucking Marx. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like they read a bunch of fucking blogs by ultras and watch a bunch of fucking YouTube videos but never study. And they call themselves Maoists. They don't have the right to call themselves communists, let alone Maoists. None of y'all put in the work. When I say y'all, I mean these ultras. None of them have put in the work. And it's so obvious. You tell on yourselves every single time. You can't trick someone who's read it. I've read more Chinese shit in Chinese than any of you fucking Maoists ever will in your entire life. And I know you're full of shit. It's hilarious. Like, I don't know, the hubris of these people. And, you know, I'm done trying to extend a hand to them. I tried that. They want nothing more than to just be right. I think they enjoy the state that they're in of being outlaws. Everyone else is wrong, I'm right. I think they really enjoy that. Because if they were ever actually to test their ideas, then they'd find out really quick that they that their ideas were bullshit and that they're not right. And that's scary. Having your entire world belief challenged. I know, because I was a Maoist. And my entire world belief was challenged by a Chinese communist. And then China itself. And it was hard for me to let go. But once I broke out of that individualist, liberal, selfish bullshit that I was in, it helped me a lot more. And I still haven't, none of us can completely break out of that individualist liberalism that's so innate to Western idea. But we can recognize when it happens and fix it. And that's what we have to do. And what, you know, not everyone has the opportunity to be thrown into a world that doesn't think like liberals, that people who have a collective ideology from before Marxism, the Chinese people. You get thrown into this world that has a completely different way of thinking. It can shock you out of that way of thinking. And that's what it did for me. But not everyone has that opportunity. But as long as their fingers are in their ears, they're never going to have a chance to work on that. And that's the problem with ultra leftists. And that's the difference between them and... No, I certainly don't know everything about communist theory. I just imagine now, if I was put in a position of power in a socialist state, how incompetent I would be. And it just goes to show that the people who truly do know the most about it are the people who build it. And I tell you now that a street sweeper from China knows more about building socialism than any of us do in the West, who have never built or constructed socialism. A farmer from Nicaragua knows more about socialism than any of us in our dialectical ivory towers. And we have to understand that if we're truly going to be forces of international solidarity. I know there are leftcom groups that are cherry picking quotes and sending them to each other on the internet because they see the same quotes. Yeah, exactly. It's the same as any kind of religious fundamentalism, right? Evangelical Christians or ultra Orthodox Jews, who I'm still protective of, but their fundamentalism is a problem. And it's just, it always comes out distorted. Whenever you try to emulate something of the past, it always comes out distorted. And trying to emulate something of the past is not what we do as Marxists. We're trying to move history forward, always, right? Um, am I crazy? Um, I feel like and that should sort of go the same with how we learn. We should always be pushing ourselves forward. If you think you have it figured out, then you're wrong. You have to keep learning. There's so much we could spend our entire lives and not learn a fraction of everything that we could. And so the hubris to think you have it all figured out and that everyone else is wrong, the people actually building it, it's just it's laughable. And they never have an answer to this, right? They never have an answer to these criticisms I have. They just call me a revisionist. Leftcom socialism is classless. Yeah, they do that. The leftcoms do that because Marx and Engels used to call socialism lower stage communism and higher stage communism, or in just regular communism was communism. And socialism wasn't repopularized until the early 20th century as a term for that. And so leftcoms love to take that shit out of context and make it seem classless. Boy, Gewalt. My family has fundamentalist Christian views, including Zionism, but I fortunately I'm brought up to center for Palestinians and liberation theology. Yeah, I'm a modern Orthodox Jew and I am a militant anti-Zionist, so I hear you there. Also, liberation theology is amazing and it has a deep tradition in Central America. So that's really something you can connect with, as a Salvadorian. Oh, just drinking some water. Oh, I'm gonna start trying to do more streams like this because I really love talking with y'all. Even if it's not like you're not on the stream, I can read your comments and talk with y'all. I really love this. Thanks a lot to Ramiro, Dylan, H, Comrade Dude, and y'all coming in and talking made this so much more fun. And it y'all convinced me, to keep doing these kinds of streams, and hopefully I can get some of y'all on. And if you don't feel too bad about talking live on stream, I'd love to have some of y'all on sometime. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'll keep showing your comments and talking with you. But I really like it, and I really want to get more perspectives on here than just mine. I'll read your comment in a second, by the way, Dylan. This one's just shorter. Yeah, Oscar Romero has liberation theology a viewpoint prior to his martyrdom. There's a lot to learn from liberation theology, and I feel like liberation theology has really rubbed off on me as a Jew, because even though it's very Christian, there's a lot that can be taken from it from just a religious point of view when it comes to being a communist and a religious person. So, Comrade Dude obviously has religious sentiments, looking like maybe Christian sentiments. I'm not sure. And Comrade Dude is very much a communist. Comrade Dude will be the first to throw down. I'm a religious Jew, and I'll be the first, to throw down against Zionism and to defend my comrades and the LGBT folks and those ostracized by the fundamentalists. I'll be there to fight with you, because if God teaches us anything, it's to uplift humanity, and that's what we have to do. Yeah, and the Bundist movement sort of fell apart, and there are remnants of it now. But I think that a lot of their ideas still hold true, even though I don't trust the current Bundist movement with what happened recently. People like Dr. Abraham Weisfeld have done so much for Palestine, it can't be ignored. Um, but Bundism, as sort of a wider ideology, I feel like it's very relevant for Jews today, and not as some like replacement for Marxism, Leninism, but for understanding our place in a post-revolutionary world. Because a lot of left-wing people in the kibbutz and stuff in Palestine were just settlers and colonialists, and this was sort of where left-wing Zionism finding some sort of liberation for Jews fell short, and destroyed it really destroyed, any goodwill amongst the left about Jewish national liberation, especially after what Israel done. But what we have to realize is that as Jewish people, we have no place creating a state. It's the only God can do that for us. And that certainly would not be exclusive to Jews, certainly not. And to find our liberation, we have to understand that we are diasporic. We live everywhere. We're everywhere in the world, everywhere. We have a spiritual homeland, but that's not our soil to take. What needs to happen is that we need to have a national cultural autonomy within a state. We don't need to displace people to achieve the freedom to be Jews. Libre Palestina, free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Palestine is, Israel it goes against everything I believe in as a Jew, and I'm very religious. Yeah, that still exists. There still is, though the Jewish population has mostly evacuated after the fall of the Soviet Union. Many of them went to Palestine as well. It's called the Jewish Autonomous Oblast. There's actually a movement amongst left-wing Jews, to sort of plant our flag there, and sort of say, I've talked to Russians about this, talked to them and asked them, what would you think about, Jews moving there instead of Palestine, and planting our flag, still living under the Russian law, but having our national cultural autonomy. They said that's cool as long as you don't fuck with anyone or displace anyone. There's a lot of room out there. It's in the middle of Siberia. Well, it's actually near the border with Mongolia, actually, and near China. But it's the Jewish Autonomous Oblast. It's still called that. They have a menorah for their coat of arms, which is really cool. It's still in modern day Russia, but only less than 2% Jews live there now. But what I always liked was the coat of arms for it, which is like or like the city seal, I guess you would say, for a socialist. The seal for a socialist country was like had a menorah, which I always love as a symbol for Jewish freedom, because we know what the menorah is about: Jewish national liberation against Greek domination, right? For our national cultural autonomy. That's what the menorah represents. The Star of David has come to represent one of the most terrible events in our history, that being two of the most terrible events in our history, that being the Holocaust and them having to wear the Star of David, and Israel using that symbol for their genocide. So I truly think any new Jewish um, flag has to, or symbolism has to involve the menorah instead of the Star of David. Though I think the Star of David still is very impactful and important. And I just hate, the fucking, the ink flag, the Israeli flag. Well, yeah, Lenin's sympathy to the Jews, and Stalin actually is a lot more interesting when it comes to the Jews. Stalin had a very complicated relationship with the Jews. It was his idea for the oblast. He was very protective of Jews, but at the same time, butt heads with them a lot, with the Jewish leaders. So it was very interesting. I think because Stalin himself came from a religious background, he had a lot of empathy towards the Jews and their faith. I think he understood it on a bit more visceral level than other people. And it's a really complicated relationship in the early Soviet Union between the Jews and the Soviets, especially with, basically half of the Jewish labor Bund joining the Bolsheviks and the other half becoming anti-communists. And it was, but really the only people in Europe that were treating Jews like humans were the Soviets. In the Russian Empire before the Bolshevik Revolution, all Jews had a special passport that called them foreigner, because even if their families had lived there for literally over 1,000 years living in Russia, they were still called foreigner on their passports because they were Jew. It wasn't until the Bolshevik Revolution that they were given equal and full citizenship in the Soviet Union. They were not called Jewish people. They were the Russian. They were the Russian Soviet. They were Ukraine Soviet. They were, Estonian Soviet. They weren't classified as a foreigner. They were a part of the nation. And that's sort of this idea we have as Jews, is that, yes, we're Jewish, but we're also, of the nation that we live in, right? And Jews throughout history, the communities have voted and given sort of a mandate to these states. I forget the Yiddish name for it, but that where a state would be considered okay and holy, even if it was Gentile, because it allowed the Jews to exist as Jews and the people of the nation with equal rights. The doctor's plot, that's an entirely, like, that's a huge historical thing, but I can tell you now that it was not motivated by anti-Semitism. It was motivated by counter-revolutionaries. Yeah, that's a big deal, and it's things like this that have been misrepresented that have turned so many Jews against communism throughout the years. But at the same time, some of the most amazing communists are Jewish or part Jewish. That's very it's for me to talk about the doctor's plot fairly, though. I really, really have to have it all in front of me, because there's a lot of information there. And when talking about this, I don't want to come off as an anti-Semite. And even though I'm a Jew, I'm still a converted Jew, and that holds a certain meaning. Sorry, I'm just taking a drink. Oh, mosquito. But yeah, I mean, it's so, and what's the most frustrating to me is that so many Gentiles that are for the defense of Palestine and want to free Palestine get accused of anti-Semitism. And I feel like sometimes when it's a room full of Jews calling your comrade an anti-Semite and you're the only Jew sitting there defending them, it's exhausting, you know? And because of my anti-Zionist stance, and I'm a modern Orthodox Jew. I am not allowed in many modern Orthodox spaces because of my militant anti-Zionism and because of my transness and all of these things. But it's just a very complicated world, to say the least. Anti-Semitism is it is weird, but it's also led to some of the most horrific crimes in humanity. So it's like, is this a rational thing that has led to pogroms and genocides and displacements and all sorts of things? And what makes me even more sad is that Jews today in Israel are doing the same thing that has happened to us, not just during the Holocaust, but for thousands of years. And now you're doing it. It's disgusting. It's a spit in the face to God. It really is. I wasn't aware early on in Luxemburg's career, she may have been against the national question, but she came around later. I feel like the national question, that Stalin, it was Stalin, by the way, who wrote on it, not Lenin wrote on it, but Stalin codified the national question. And of course, I support national liberation. I think it's necessary. I believe that the national question is a very I feel like that has developed much further. The theory has developed a lot more advanced today, but the fundamentals of it hold true. Yeah, I've discussed other anti-Zionist Jews. I have my issues with people. I have my issues with them on a theological level, but when it comes to just unity for the anti-Zionist Jewish front, yeah, these people are great. I just hate whenever they get so public and people start criticizing their ultra orthodox beliefs. And while I'm critical of them too, I feel like that they should shut the fuck up and it's not their goy ass business. And that this is like, I'm very protective of them, right? And when I hear goy talking shit about like their ultra orthodox, it's like, you don't even understand where this comes from, you fucking piece of shit. Sorry. It's like, yeah, I'm very critical of it too. And a lot of these people don't like me, but I'm very protective of them. It's a Jewish thing. This is inside baseball. Like our conversations about communism and socialism that use all this Marxist language is the same. Our disagreements are inside Jewish baseball. Like that's not for criticizing them isn't for the goyim to do, unless they're Zionists. Unless they're affecting you or other people, for sure. I've seen that guy. He's like Chad. He's like Chad Chud Rudy. Yeah, that guy's a fucking piece of shit. He's a typical Zionist liberal. The fucking worst. Those people are the fucking worst. That's the kind of guy who, whenever he was in the IDF, I guarantee you, he shot kids for fun, and now he goes out and does his liberal bullshit for YouTube and shit. He's a piece of shit. Lost Jews. You're the dude, Zionists are going against the very teachings of Hashem. Humans have no place in building the messianic age. It's not something for them to do. That's a God thing. Yeah, that I Zionist Jews are the worst. They hide behind like this armor where they can't be criticized for fear of being called an anti-Semite. But guess what, fuckers? I'm a Jew and I'm gonna fucking go at you too. And you can't call me an anti-Semite. You can try. They're more anti-Semitic than most. They kill they kill more Jews. Israel kills a fuckload of Jews. Israel loves to kill Arab Jews. Israel loves to kill Syrian and Lebanese Jews and Palestinian Jews, Ethiopian Jews, Yemeni Jews. They love to kill those kinds of Jews. They don't care about Jews. They care about supremacy. They care about European supremacy. You know, if Palestine was a democratic secular state, the Jews would still fucking be there. You know, they just don't want fucking Jews from the diaspora coming in and genociding their people and stealing their land. Is that so much to ask for? I think the only time, I mean, I have no issue with Jews returning to the Holy Land, but you can't displace people or commit genocide, you fucking lunatics. Hell yeah, it is. Has nothing to do with Judaism. It's a lot more geared like an Anglo country than any sort of Jewish thing. Because Jewish philosophy and ideology is anti-Western. It's not a Western ideology. It's not. It doesn't. It's dialectical to its core, and you know, Zionists are anti-Jews. Even if they are Jewish, they're anti-Jews and they're anti-Semitic. I'll tell you that. And Israel was created by the fucking British Empire at the behest of anti-Semites in the British Empire allied with self-hating Jews. Third worldism is a meme. Self-important ultra-leftists is what they are. You ask them, why don't any communists in the third world call themselves third worldists? Oh, they just call themselves Marxist, Leninists, or Maoists. Oh, so you're just making it up. It was created by a bunch of fucking middle-class white people. I mean, it's worthless. And like a psyop called Jay Sagai. Yeah, Settlers is a fucking psyop. Fuck that shit. Settlers is such hot garbage. If you want a real book about, you know, third worldism, but not like the meme, but the real deal, read Frantz Fanon's The Wretched of the Earth. That's some good shit. That's some good Marxist shit. Yeah, I mean, here it is, y'all. Here's someone from the third world. Here's someone who's a victim, whose people are a victim of colonialism and imperialism. Here's someone whose people have fought for their freedom. What does he say? Fuck them. I'm sorry. If anyone, like, I tried to be nice to third worldists. I tried to appeal to third worldists. I was even going to talk about their ideas. But you know what happened. Those fucking people are lunatics. Lunatics. And the person they cite as like the number one founder of this idea, Commander Prairie Fire, is like he's a dude who he's like this rich dude who overdosed on heroin and made all his money making Bangladeshis sell heroin for him. Fucking lunatics, I swear. Yeah, yeah. Third worldism is an appeal to inaction. It's an appeal to inaction, which is one of the most anti-communist things you could do. It's an appeal to inaction. And anything that they do claim that they want to do, like destroy and balkanize America, like, and not in a way that would be an organic freedom for some people, but they just want to balkanize it because they don't like it. That's like, that would do so much damage to the most vulnerable people in our society. They don't care about uplifting the toiling masses. They care about, you know, being superior to those first worldists. A lot of us third world folks are religious people who don't have the typical American liberal views. There you go, right? And, you know, I'm a religious person too, and I'm not from the third world, but a lot of us are religious and they exist. I know for a fact, hey, Robert, I know for a fact Robert Webb is a Christian and a communist. I know for a fact Comrade Dude is a Christian and a communist. I'm a Jew and a communist. Religious communists exist. Most of the world's working class are communists. Or are religious, I should say, not communists, my goodness, are religious. Most of the world's working class are religious. Anti-theism is anti-communism. It's anti-working class. Now, you can be an atheist. I have no issue with an atheist. Anti-theism is my issue. People who are militantly against religion. That shit's fucking annoying and infantile. Reminds me whenever I was a teenager, because I was one of those militant atheists. Ugh. American liberal values are not great. Very not good. Oh, jeez. But yeah, Robert here is exactly. Um, I mean, I met some fake leftists. I just asked them what they have achieved. And y'all, this is a Chinese communist. So ask them what they've achieved. It's a little bit different, isn't it? I'm agnostic now, but I became a communist. It stemmed from my early Christian reading the Bible and the teachings of Jesus. Yeah, there's this work called Jesus the Proletarian, which is a pretty good work that talks about that kind of stuff. I don't really see third worldists working in farms with extreme weather and no McDonald's. Yeah, because most of them, you know, are security guards, like Jason Unruh. He's a security guard. He even wrote a book about it. The answer is nothing. Then what are they? Losers. Tell them like it is from someone who lives and constructs socialism right here, y'all. Listen to them. Gaddafi said it best. There's no contradiction between Islam and socialism. There's no contradiction between Christianity and socialism. Absolutely, you know, socialist Jamahiriya in Libya was very much an Islamic form of socialism. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Gaddafi was right. And soon I'm going to be talking about non-Marxist socialism, one of them being, you know, Gaddafi's. So that should be interesting. Right, right. Third worldists. I have no issue with communists owning things like that. The problem is, though, I have like a 4-year-old Chinese phone that I got for dirt cheap, but that's but class traders are great. If you're a class trader, if you're like a bougie who's betraying their class, like Lenin or Marx or Engels, especially Engels, like, more power to you. But you can't act all high and mighty like that. Also, I asked them if they love their ideology this much, why haven't they seen anyone wage a real revolution in their own country? Because comrade, it's an appeal to inaction. The entire ultra left in the West, and especially in the United States and North America, it's an appeal to inaction. It's wanting to feel superior and correct, but not having to do anything. It's just laziness, ultra leftism. My perspective, in El Salvador and Honduras, no windows, cows, and flies everywhere, and we clean our clothes in metal buckets. Afraid of death? Then what are they? Chicken? Right? Right? They're the ones always talking about people's war and shit, but they're not out there doing it. That's a fact. I'm a class trader. See, a lot of communists can come from a bourgeois background, but if you dedicate your life to the movement and you yourself do not exploit people and you do the right thing and you betray your class, hell yeah, more power to you. Yeah, I'm a country girl. I come from the countryside. Though I lived in the cities in China, I'm from the countryside naturally. Right now, I'm literally like 20 miles from the nearest town, which is cool, but it is what it is. And really, third world is a lot of it's like poverty fetishism too. They hate the idea of any people from the third world improving their lives and having more luxury, like what happens in Vietnam and Laos and China and the Dprk. They don't like that. Or Cuba, they don't like that. I don't know what it is. It's like they have like this fetish of being poor, and like they think that that's what socialism is about, and socialism isn't about being poor. You heard it from a Chinese citizen themselves. Then the conclusion is, and they're chicken and losers. So here's the question: what made those chicken and losers think they would actually have a position to point a finger at China? They have no room to point a finger at China. The hubris of these people to think, who have achieved nothing, that they can tell billions of people who construct socialism daily that they're wrong, is embarrassing, and it's chauvinist and racist, really. They have no room to tell China this and that. They're angry because China doesn't listen, because China does do what they want. China's a sovereign country and a free country that takes its own way, that isn't inside their dogma in their heads. I wish your family had that too. I want to give it to them. I want to, I've encountered so much of this in my life. People without fridges and AC, and not here in the States, though that does happen in the States. But I'm in my travels abroad. I've seen it before, and it sucks. Poverty is not socialism, but prosperity is ideal. Exactly. Too many inmates in the West, I see no value in participating in politics, is concerning. We should use every avenue possible to spread our message. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of shit Lenin said. Use every tool to your disposal. May not be a means to an end, but it is a tool. Long live the People's Republic of China. Chi lai, chi lai, chi lai. 我爱北京，天安门。Oh, geez. I really do love China. Uh, they treated me, the people there accepted me with wide open arms. You know, if you treat their way of life and with respect, and you treat their rules and customs with respect, and you put in an honest effort to learn their language and learn about them and their people and their homeland, they'll welcome you with wide open arms. And it's just such a beautiful culture, and I recommend anyone who has the opportunity to let the Chinese people teach them something, go and do it, because it's worth it. We're about to get some learning. The Gang of Four was horrific. Horrific. I lived in China between the years of 2014 and 2019. I lived in the south, in the province of Guangdong, in places like Guangzhou and Zhuhai, but I visited all over China. No, they don't. They hate the real working class. Those ultras do. And of course, they don't want to do that, even though they're the biggest advocates for it. But this is the biggest thing right here. I really feel like that a lot of these ultra leftists just have a disdain for the working class. They just hate the working class. Oh well. The Gang of Four was a horrific era. They were a group of writers critics that nearly destroyed China. Thank goodness for great comrades like Deng Xiaoping and Zhou Enlai. Zhou Enlai, Deng Xiaoping, people like that saved China. That's what people don't realize. They saved China. Exactly. Excuse me. Excuse me. That's absolutely correct. They don't want to achieve anything. They really don't. If they did, they wouldn't alienate themselves from everyone. They wouldn't condemn every single. I mean, they wouldn't condemn billions of people building socialism. They're fucking anti humans. They're against humanity. It's funny because I have two different weapons near me considering my environment. Well, I have I'm a country girl. We have firearms. Fantastic. Yeah. The third one is great too. They're all good. Um, but that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear more people are reading it. It really gives you an insight to, what's going on. It really, it helps you understand why and the Marxist justification for a lot of things that are going on in China and China's foreign policy, and you really understand a lot better. Yeah, I was. It is really good. It is really. Oh, you're about to make a video about them. Well, everyone, go subscribe. I can't wait to see that when you make them. I'll be sure to share them on the community tab here. That sounds great. Um, oh, are you gonna do it on Red Comrades in China with Dead Ghost? Oh, you're American sis. Are you gonna do it with what does she go by? Lettuce? Oh, not with Red Comrades in China? Okay. Well, I'm excited to see. Well, right, right. When your ideas have never been tested, it's easy to be critical of things that have actually tested material reality. Oh, veggie. I love veggies. I've known her for a while. She's really a good person. Her and Dead Ghost. Mm. Veggies is great. Veggies is very smart. Um, and she lives in China, but she is American, of course. But a really smart comrade. Really cool too. Like just a really nice person and just good company. That's gonna be great. I'm excited to see. I'm very excited to see that. I can't wait. I'm gonna share it with. I'm gonna share it with my Chinese friends back at home too. They always love seeing English language explanations of Chinese things. I'm excited for that. Everyone, look out for that. These people. I mean, these people either live in China, have lived in China, or they're Chinese. He's Chinese. Veggies is an American who lives in China, has lived in China for quite a while, and these people give very unique perspectives about what's going on in the good old PRC, the People's Republic of China. We love her. We love her. We love her. A daily reminder that the Uyghur genocide is a fed up. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't exist. I've been to Xinjiang. Um, I have Uyghur friends. Um, it's ridiculous to think that there's a genocide. Like whenever I was in Xinjiang, in 2018, I was in Xinjiang and I was out there and, I was looking for the genocide and I was asking the Uyghurs, hey, y'all, are y'all being genocided? They were like, no. It's just a bunch of bullshit. It's just a bunch of bullshit. Um, it's typical anti-communist tactics that have been used since the Cold War against countries that are uh, against the West. And China is the number one threat to the Western world right now because China is shooting past the capitalist countries at breakneck speed, and nothing can stop them except for violence from the outside. But even then, I don't think that can stop them either. But that doesn't mean that the US isn't going to try. With their National Endowment of Democracy funded protesters in Hong Kong, those fascists in Hong Kong, or funding a pan-Turkic Islamic group trying to make inroads into Xinjiang. The Uyghurs are members of the Communist Party of China. Uyghurs are across the country. They're not just in Xinjiang. You'll find Uyghurs on almost every street in China. They open restaurants and businesses. They're everywhere. They don't understand. They don't understand what's going on in China. They're assuming. Why do ultras call North Korea revisionist? They call the Dprk revisionist because they don't understand what Juche is. They think Juche is like some kind of replacement for Marxism, and it's not. It's just a very, very, very unique extension of Marxism Leninism in the Korean conditions. And it's also a very interesting anti-essentialist philosophy and different way of thinking. And it's very difficult for them to get into it because, it doesn't match their previous dogma. The Koreans use very different language than other Marxists. And that doesn't mean that they're revisionists, though. Not at all. It's just a very patriotic and Korean experience. Well, their issue is that, again, they don't understand Juche and how Juche goes beyond the material to analyze how the social relations of humanity drive history. And if anyone has read, um, Kim Il Sung, you can say, we thank Marx for moving us beyond vulgar mysticism and vulgar materialism to a higher dialectical materialism. But now that we have left that reactionary mysticism behind, or that reactionary non-materialism behind, that we can go back into it. That's their whole entire thing, is that we're going to look at how humanity is the driving force of all of history, and how this is beyond material, because social relations are beyond material. Social and emotional things are beyond material, and that's what the philosophers in Korea are trying to figure out, or they're trying to make sense of, using this anti-essentialist philosophy, which does make sense of these things. And it's very interesting, and I suggest people go and look into it. Yeah. Juche is a social philosophy based on Marxism. Bingo, just Jesse Miller. I met a. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. It's complete bourgeois propaganda, and it elucidates the characteristics of men. You're right, Jesse. That's a very eloquent way of putting it, but that's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. They're so tied. They can't think beyond, their dogma. That's their problem. They don't understand that people can learn how to view the world in different and new ways that aren't in contradiction to Marxism at all. Oh yeah, I mean, that illegal government in the southern part of the southern part of occupied Korea, right? That's a fucking horrific government. Caleb must be revisionist because he hates pineapple on pizza. I hate it too, but mostly because I'm allergic to pineapples. But I'm not too keen on sweet on my pizza. But if y'all like it, then that's cool. If you don't, that's cool. Food is food. I'm just happy we have the opportunity to eat. Oh, absolutely. It's disgusting neoliberalism. I mean, I think the film Parasite is a good sort of commentary on the juxtaposition between the people, the true masses of the southern part of Korea, and the rich. That film is a good look into that. Parasite's a very good film, and it's, whether intended or not, it's a Marxist film, and it's a commentary on the society that occupied Korea has. And I've never been to occupied Korea, but I've been to free Korea. And I can tell you that free Korea is a very happy place. Uh, it's almost like, they say the grass is greener on the other side, and that's the case. When you look over, when you're looking over into the DPRK, you're like, wow, that looks really fucking great. And you go over there, you're like, it's even better in person. It's one of those places that exceeds your expectations in every single way, and just the warmest and friendliest people you'll ever meet. Every single one of them can speak English. Um, they all know how to speak English, which is wild. Um, yeah, I mean, just it's it's capitalist colonialism. This disgusting form of it, imperialist colonial capitalism that is manifested there, and it's literally like destroyed the culture of the Korean people in the South. But fortunately, the Free Korea is maintaining Korean culture and building it and creating, developing it and expanding it. West the West calls Asian tiger countries example of free market, but basically all of them grew via command economies that directed production from the top. That's true. Even the capitalist ones like Singapore, um, and the ROK, South Korea, the illegal government in Taiwan. All those places were like command fascistic economies. You know, like a highly corporatist. It's just it's us Westerners trying to like be authorities on China is difficult. Well, again, I have met a few Koreans from the South in my life. I've never been there. I have been to the North. Um, I can tell you though that the people of the DPRK are full of life. Absolutely full of life. Very proud and excited. Very proud to of their country. Very excited to be able to practice their English with a foreigner and also talk about Juche and their country, the music they like. You know, they're regular ass people. They're just very, they're kind, very open. And this is just the people that I met. It wasn't everyone. I'm sure there's a depressed guy like anywhere else. I just, it is. I can tell you that it's a pretty stress free environment. Pyongyang is like hippies would love it there. Hippies would love it. Everyone is either relaxing or, if they're on their way somewhere, they don't seem like they're in a hurry. People lackadaisically riding their bikes. It's like no one's in a hurry. You know what I mean? And that's very different to the north of China where everyone's in a hurry. And in the south, people go a bit slower, but still, people in China are in a big hurry. Same in Vietnam. But in the DPRK, and people are not in a hurry. They're not in a hurry to go anywhere. It's a very relaxing, sort of mellow attitude. Yeah, I mean, it actually is. Um, I would say percentage wise that more people from the DPRK can speak English, but when someone from China can speak English, their English is a little bit better. Um, Usually, the people who can speak English in China are the people below like the age of like 45, because most everyone is able to go to university if they have the grades. So people who go to university have to take like required competence in English and stuff. So, but I would say that Chinese people are easier to understand, but more percentage of the people from the DPRK can speak it. Almost every person I met in the DPRK could speak English. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it is an actual dictatorship. Well, I think it's the People's Action Party has been in power in Singapore since forever. And like there's this minor social democratic workers party that wins like a seat every now and then. It's a shame. Singapore's a very interesting place, but it's a formation of colonialism. But it's interesting because of the the many different cultures and languages and stuff. I went to their consulate in Shenyang, and I got an entry visa thingy, and I visited, and I did that through they have like tours. You can get a tour and stuff. Or like you can get like a package. So it cost me like 400 RMB for 3 full nights in Pyongyang, and everything paid for, all my food paid for, everything paid for. And 400 RMB is, it's a lot in China, but in the West that's like a lot less money. It's like less than $100. And yeah, I mean, they'll let you in if you're American. I mean, hey, that's not a problem. Um, the ban is not, they don't ban Americans from coming in. Americans ban Americans from going in. But they also don't stamp your passport. They give you a visa entry thing that they stamp. So they didn't see that when I returned to the States. It's actually pretty simple if you're not doing it from America. If you're doing it from a country that has relations with the DPRK and they have a consulate, it's fairly simple. And they actually want you to come. You know, they're proud of their country. Tourism helps them bring in some bucks. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. Damn. Whew, well, rent is crazy. Where do you freaking live? Oh, I live in, rural places, so rent isn't nearly as high, but damn, big cities in this country, it's fucking huge. Rent is massive. And people literally spend 75% of their entire income on just surviving. It's crazy. Oh, for sure. That bitch isn't from the DPRK. And if she is, she's just a fucking liar. Maryland. There you go. There's your fucking East Coast fucking East Coast fucking rent. That's crazy. It's not, and what sucks is that places like Baltimore and shit are getting gentrified. Like, people are getting pushed out of the hood in Baltimore and shit. It's crazy. Talk to you, fan. Are you my Are you Italian communist? I have another Italian communist friend from Rome who's a big Toddy fan. What are Koreans like in the DPRK? They are very friendly. They're eager, I would say. They're excited. They want to ask you about your home. They want to tell you about their home. They want to practice their English with a foreigner. That's for sure. They definitely want to practice their English. And that's common in a lot of countries where English is like something they learn as another language in education. They always want to practice. Italian Australian, cool. Yeah, I have a friend from Rome, so his name's Italian Communist. He comes on the stream. Y'all would probably get along. Totti is a legend, and Roma's like the working class squad nowadays up in there. The Rossoneri. It's pretty cool. Australian, huh? Do you know Bob Britton? Bob Britton, the leader of the Australian Communist Party. God bless America, land and our love. Sorry. Yeah, this is America for you. Um, Lazio are fash. Fuck Lazio. Though Ciro Immobile was certainly fun to watch in the World Cup. Or the Euros? How about those Euros? Oh, that was fucking cool. Anytime the Anglos lose, I'm happy. I'm ethnically Irish and religious and culturally Jewish. I have a lot of reason to hate the Anglos. Yeah, when it comes to Italy, I've always been partial to Livorno because there's communist fans and stuff. Look at that. Who's crossing the border now? That's so ironic, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. Medical tourism happens to Cuba a lot too, just not from Americans. I don't live so close to the border, but I am from Texas. So, Dylan, you must be from the Southwest somewhere, so you sort of get what's going on down around here. I've never been to Livorno. I just like Livorno because their team is communist. Or not communist, but their fans are communist and stuff, and they hold up, like Stalin banners at their matches and shit, which is cool. I always liked that. Famous, they're like in the third division of Italian football. Scottish Irish. Yeah, I'm Ulster Scots and Catholic Irish. Protestant Ulster Scots and Catholic Irish, and I'm a fucking modern Orthodox Jew. Figure me out. Yeah. Robert Webb. Yeah, that seems like a very Anglo name. We're oh, oi, Gewalt. That's crazy. I hate this fucking country. I hate the government. That's awesome. That's awesome. Did he? Because post-war, post-fascist Italy was Communist Party was supremely popular. Fortunately, a lot of circumstances changed that, which I do want to have Italian communists come on and talk about, the history of the Italian, communist movement, which will be really cool. But he also had a thing for Mussolini, so go figure. Who knows? Who knows? All I know is that the Italian partisans were badass. He hid food from the Nazis? Yeah, because, pretty after about the southern half of the country was occupied, the Germans came in and occupied the northern part, and they made the new Italian social state or something like that. It was really weird. Or Italian Social Republic. And they fought against the Allies from the north of the country. Yeah, I mean, fuck the Nazis. Even the Italian fascists hated the Nazis. Perfect. That's really cool. I love hearing stories like that. It is what it is, and my Medicaid expired, so harm reduction. Jeez. When I first started reading Gramsci, I was pleasantly surprised he was basically an ML. Yeah, Gramsci's brilliant. Yeah, Gramsci was an ML. Gramsci was an ML. Gramsci and his contribution to the ideas of cultural hegemony are invaluable. Invaluable. I suggest everyone read the Prison Notebooks. They're very good. And Gramsci is like he's fun to read. That's the thing, is that Gramsci's like an entertaining writer, and it just flows. So you would have a good time reading the prison notebooks, and you would learn a lot. um, the whole entire idea of the ruling class using the cultural hegemony and all this. I have to do a whole video on cultural hegemony. That'll be a good one. Yeah, Gramsci is one of my favorites. Super underrated. Yeah, I mean, that's why you see a lot of communist parties, have sizable memberships and get sizable election results of millions in many countries in Europe, but we still see who the dominating class is there. But they're not as nearly as adverse to communism as we are in North America, or even in Australia, New Zealand, Anglos. Yeah, of course he does. He was a founding member of the Italian Communist Party, and he was an opponent to Bordiga. They hated each other. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, while Gramsci was in there writing the prison notebooks, Trotsky was taking a tour with his friend Mussolini around the country. Oh, the movement in Greece is one of the leaders uh, outside of ruling parties of communists in the world, and certainly leaders in Europe. They lead the initiative, which is like the European Communist International Grouping. And they're also one of the leading figures in the World Federation of Trade Unions, um, and the International Meeting of Communist and Workers' Parties. They're one of the founding members. And um, yeah, I mean, the KKE is a brilliant communist party that holds, support by the millions. They're extremely successful, and I could see them taking power one day, even maybe through an election, which would be wild. But they're a very respectable party with a lot of amazing communist comrades. Yeah, the Western portrayal. I guarantee you more communists have been put in prison in the West than any fucking communists have put in any quote unquote capitalists in their country. Nationwide, communists get together. Greek parliament doesn't have sovereignty, though. I mean, yeah, I understand that. I do. But if the KKE were to take power, they could, make constitutional changes and fundamentally change things. I think that maybe that would have pushback from the EU, NATO, the army, the military, the ruling class, and it would have to be like an entire militant revolution. But that, I believe, in the conditions of Greece, could start with a successful election. The international line. Gaddafi, for sure. Muammar Gaddafi. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Italy gave a big thank you to China and Chinese doctors. Um, that was cool solidarity there from China. Their government shit, but the people thanked you. Althusser is interesting. He's more of a he he was more of that Mao Zedong thought anti-revisionist type of guy, but he was a member of the French Communist Party through and through. I think he's very interesting. I think what he writes about the Cultural Revolution is fascinating. It's worth a look. He's not my favorite, but I don't. I think he has a lot of interesting ideas. A lot of stuff I disagree with. Yeah, but he was a fuck. He wasn't a communist. He's not a communist. He's a member of Syriza. Gonzalo, JK. My favorite non-Marxist socialist is definitely Gaddafi, but also Nasser. I'm very partial to. I'm very partial to Arab socialism. Also, I think that um, Sukarno is very interesting, and I could call him a socialist, patriotic socialist. Um, yeah, I would say people like that definitely are people that I look up to. You know, Gaddafi, Nasser, Sukarno, early Baathists like Michel Aflaq. Um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of interesting non-Marxist socialists out there, and it's nice to listen to different perspectives every once in a while, especially since things like you know Jamahiriya and uh, Pan Arabism are things that have existed in material reality. I totally agree. Rest in peace, Gaddafi. May you burn in hell, Obama, you child killing piece of shit. Rest in power, Comrade Gaddafi. What an interesting society socialist Libya was. What's my take on the synthetic left? I mean, whatever you want to call it, whatever whatever you want to call it. I mean, what Caleb says is spot on. Um, Caleb's right. I don't think we should focus on them so much. I don't think they're as relevant as he makes them out to be. But, you know, I mean, he's not wrong. He's right in his criticisms of them. It's crazy how the U.S. forgot about Libya, especially in the breadtube types who vouched for the Democrats, right? You know, and the good news, y'all, is that last year there was finally a peace agreement and the war in Libya has ended. And hopefully this leads to the open air slave markets closing. But I have no faith in this new government. That's just a unity of the two people that were fighting before. No faith in them. But Comrade Gaddafi's son is running for president, and I'll pretty much back whatever side that the Jamahiriya socialists back and the Nasserists back. Let's go. Yeah, thank goodness that war ended. And you know, it was the peace was brokered by Russia, funnily enough, between the Libyan National Army, which was the Tobruk based government, and the government of National Accord, which was the Tripoli based government, the West and the East. Finally, it's over. Long live Gaddafi's memory. I hope his son is able to carry on that legacy. I'm against prostitution. I'm against prostitution, and I have prostituted myself before to pay bills. I'll tell you that now. I'm very much against prostitution. You know what China does when they find a prostitute? They punish the pimp, they punish the John, and then the woman they don't punish, or It's mostly women, but the sex worker, they don't punish. The sex worker, they send them to vocational school, something where they can learn a skill and they get them a job. End of. But I'm very much against prostitution. The fact that people have to commodify their body to survive is disgusting. Now, I defend those who have to sell their body to survive to the end. They're workers just like me. They're just working in an industry that's one of the most soul-sucking things. And I'll defend them till the end. But it's a systemic problem. If there is no capitalism, there is no prostitution. Simple. Absolutely. At least on a public vocational schools. There are small little private ones, but public free vocational schools. Yeah, I'm against prostitution and porn as well. And I'm not against the people who are trying to survive by doing it. I'm not. You know, I stand in solidarity with these exploited people, the most exploited people. But I'm very much against, you know, their exploitation, and I stand in solidarity with them. I would never advocate for it. In a post-revolutionary society, that should be rid of in an instant. And when it comes to pornography, that's a whole different. I mean, the entire thing, you don't know if that person you're sleeping with or the porn you're watching is a trafficked person. You don't know if they're underage. You don't know what coercion went behind them being in that video or being the victim of your sexual desires. And I'm deeply religious, but I'm also looking at this on like a class basis, right? These people are just trying to survive. The people consuming it, on the other hand, are degenerates of this society who need to be put away, or at least re-educated. Yeah, I mean, Americans totally need vocational schools, free public vocational schools, and it would pay for itself, you dumbass capitalists, getting more. I don't know who Tracy Lords is, but she got in the business at 15 years old. That just proves my point that you do not know what you're watching when you're looking at that porn. You do not know their age, and you do not know the circumstances behind any of these people doing sex work. Like I said, I'll defend these people against abuse and exploitation and try to uplift them like any other exploited person. But anyone consuming it, anyone pimping it, these people need to be put away for good. No fap rules. I don't know about that. I'm a sexual person, but I like have partners and stuff. So no, I went to typical 4-year university. Oh, she starred opposite of Tom Cruise, so like a big star. Damn. Well, I'm so glad that she's not in that horrible situation anymore. I'm very happy to hear that. It's disgusting. So many young people, especially young women, young assigned female at birth people specifically, that are put through this. A lot of trans people as well. A lot of queer people. It's really just, yeah, I mean, no communist in their right mind thinks it should be legal or think it should be some aspect of socialism. Because under socialism, these people would have the opportunity to work and live in a life of dignity and respect. They had to pull her that catalog. They found out how young she was. That's crazy that they still had it. Tom Cruise, yeah, Tom Cruise is a Scientologist. He's insane. But he was just explaining who Tracy Lords was. Someone an actress, an actress, um, an actress who acted opposite of him to show like how famous she's gotten now. But she at 15 she was put into the industry, and that just proves the point of how you do not know. And look, they had to pull her catalog when they found out how young she was. That in the catalog had been there for years, decade plus. Child porn just open there. So it just goes to show you, you do not know what you're looking at. Get a partner that you like. Be with a consenting adult. Figure yourself out that way. Use your fucking imagination. Jeez. You don't have to consume that nasty shit. Bread to communist might. Yeah, I've seen bread to quote unquote socialists advocate for this before. I don't hate you. That would be ridiculous to hate you. Um, I am for bodily autonomy of women. I personally, on like my own personal religious level, would never do an abortion. I'm against it on that on that grounds. But I also don't plan to tell anyone with a womb what to do with their body. That's not my place. I'm not the fucking body police. Damn. Well, at least she's not in that mess. I'll tell you that. Me? No, I'm a Jew, a modern Orthodox Jew. I was born into a Catholic family. I know about Catholicism. I'm Irish, but I'm a Jew. I was actually baptized Catholic, y'all. This more modern Orthodox Jew was baptized Catholic. I was never confirmed though. I left the church before I was confirmed. It's pretty young. Not a fan of Christianity. I don't think it does. And hey, skeptical, good to see you. Y'all, if you want to see someone who's actually out there on the streets talking to the masses, check out Skeptical Manus. This shit's good. It's good shit. I don't think it does. I think it's separate. And I feel like I can keep my religious beliefs separate from my materialism. Well, he sounds awesome. Well, we can't know that kind of stuff. But I am pro choice, for sure. On a personal level, I would never advocate for it. But I feel like bodily autonomy has a lot more implications than we realize when we're talking about this subject. Been baptized twice. Hey, if the first time didn't feel right, do it again. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm Catholic, but don't believe in God. People don't realize how common this is. I mean, it's common in the Jewish world as well. Yeah, Skeptical Mantis. Um, it's very unique content where the only time you'll get true interaction with the people of the community and no filter opinions like these, like some of y'all saying um I'm against abortion, like right there it happens. Oh, that's very sad. And I became a Jew. Why? Because Judaism spoke to me. The, uh, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Tanakh, the tradition, the history. It spoke to me. That's why. I don't think that, I mean, you can, dialectics come from the Jews. So, I mean, they're not inherently dialectic or materialist. Marxism is just materialist. When dealing with, you know, political economy and, you know, analysis, organization, doesn't really deal with things like, where do we come from? But that's not really why I chose to be a Jew. I was just not wondering where we came from. Get some good rest, comrade dude. Thank you so much for joining us. Much solidarity. We love our Salvadorians up in here. And we accept all religious and lack thereof religious beliefs up in here. As long as you're not hurting anyone, like, that's what it's about, like, spiritually enriching yourself. It's, or maybe being a part of a community. I know I feel that deeply as a Jew, as being a part of a wider culture and community. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people turn to religious institutions, and not just the faith, but the institutions themselves. And a lot of the times, these institutions have a character that isn't so good for those people. Other times it does. So it's really hard to, like, lump any of these ideas into big categories, and it's really a case by case basis. Tons of Chinese people are atheists, and that's cool. Atheists are no less than I. In my view, God breathed life into all of us, including you, and it doesn't make any of us any better or any worse. It doesn't make me any more right or any less wrong. That's the thing about faith, is that you can't make very many claims about anything. It's just a belief. It's not anything, based in science or anything like that. Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. And um, as I have been taught about Judaism, is that going and doing that, trying to evangelize people, trying to convert people, that's a sin. Like, to me, that's like, yikes. I don't like that. It feels yucky to try to do that. And I don't like seeing other people do it either. I met some Christians in China. I worked with some Chinese Christians, and they never spoke a word about it unless I asked. And they were chill as fuck. I liked them. Yeah, and what people need to understand about China is that it isn't just LGBTQ stuff. It's just, you know, that sort of affection and loudness, just anything sexual in public, let alone LGBT, right? It's Chinese people don't want to hear about your bedroom business. They just don't want to fucking hear it. That sort of thing that goes on in the bedroom is excessively private. And they're a lot more prude about being public about this stuff. They don't like to be public about this stuff. And they always say to Americans, y'all are just so much more sexual than us, openly sexual. Mm. Yeah, they do. And I think that's down to the fact that a lot of religions are just trying to make sense of the world and trying to make the best out of, the situations that we're in. And a lot of the times the conclusions you'll come to aren't too dissimilar to the ones based in, a scientific method, like dialectical materialism. And but yeah, like for me with LGBT stuff, when LGBT people are getting treated like shit, I'm gonna come out and fucking throw down for my people. But at the same time, all I want as an LGBT person is to be treated with the same dignity and respect and given the same, starting point as, a straight or a cis person. That's it. I just want the same treatment. I don't want anything else. I just want to be treated the same, like I'm no different. And I think that's a lot of us, a lot of us that are different in many ways, whether it's LGBT or it's a smaller thing. A lot of us just don't want to be seen as lesser or different. It's just a reaction. It's like, damn, I don't want this. Yeah, it's a completely emotional response, of course. And, like that sort of hate, like when it comes to anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, racism, xenophobia, none of it's rational. It's an emotional response. It's an emotional response. It has nothing to do with science or rationality. It's an emotional response. Oh yeah, it's Australia. See you, Toddy fan. Sorry I didn't say goodbye when you said bye. But yeah, I mean, fascism, I feel like, is the same way as homophobia or racism or whatever these irrational things. Fascism is kind of the same. It's an emotional ideology. It's an emotional response to something. It's not rational. It's emotional, and emotions are powerful amongst humans, and that's that manipulating emotions are how you take control. That's how they do it. But yeah, and no, I think Jesus, like the historical Jesus, would have thought you were pretty cool as a communist. Um, there's actually a really cool book called Jesus the Proletarian. Um, it's pretty interesting. But I don't believe in Jesus. I'm a Jew. I reject Jesus. Um, to me, Jesus was a Jew who was very radical and wrong. I follow the Pharisee tradition. They're the bad guys in the New Testament, the Pharisees, but that's where the rabbinical tradition comes from. Oh, the New Testament, the Jews are the bad guys, that's for sure. The Jews are the bad guys. And honestly, even if you don't believe, here's what I believe. I believe that Hashem loves you and he will not punish you. There's no punishment for not believing. I believe that. I believe in science too. I don't take I don't take our holy book and our stories literally. I don't think any honest religious person takes their religious texts to be literal. We have this entire work, a dialectic work called the Talmud, which is a bunch of rabbi over thousands of years doing dialectics about how we interpret these stories, but that they're not literal. Yeah, you'll be okay. As a Jew, I think you're pretty cool. You're typical of a lot of Chinese people. A lot of Chinese people say the same thing. I'm an atheist. I believe in science. I'd say over 70% of Chinese people. Yeah, you have your Buddhists, you have your Muslims, few Christians, but for the most part, Chinese people are pretty irreligious, either agnostic or atheist. Though they do have a Taoist culture, and I don't really think that that's inherently religious. Just think it's a lot of tradition. I mean, respect for ancestors and stuff, but not necessarily religious. Just like respect for in a very uh, ritualistic way. You learned how to fight, badass. You learned some kung fu. Have you been to Foshan? I went to Foshan and saw the school, Yevon School. Ip Man, as the Westerners know him. Taoism is different, right? Right. It's so hard to explain, especially in English. It's hard to explain. It's just not the only reason that um, Westerners call it a religious thing is because they don't have any other word for it, right? But it's not. It's like a ritualistic cultural respect for ancestors and stuff. It's in, yeah, yeah. And most oh, you learn kung fu? Badass. I've been to Foshan. Um Foshan is so cool. You know, like the home of kung fu. Very cool. I think kung fu is so cool. I can't do it. I cannot. I cannot. I'm not athletic enough. But this has been a really fun conversation with all of y'all. Um, Thank you everyone who tuned in and commented. I appreciate y'all. Mm, what's the other one? Ah, Changzhou. Changzhou. What do I do when I'm bored? Um, I don't really get the opportunity very much, but um, I either read, play guitar, mm, study, study Marxism, uh, practice languages, stuff like that. Oh, be nice, be nice. Robert's a good guy. Robert's a good guy. Robert's very nice. Robert, he's just kidding. He's a jokester. uh, he's actually a good guy. Everyone here's cool. I appreciate y'all. But I do have to get going. I gotta wake up and do some work in the morning. So it's been fun. I hope to do some more longer streams like this where I can interact more with y'all. I appreciate it. Solidarity, shalom, and keep up the good fight.